Welcome back to Jeff's channel. I'm glad to say that this video came a little sooner than the last one, and I will do my best to keep the momentum going and upload more regularly from now on. Last time, we only covered the truth behind the legend of Hanako-san, and this time, young Hajime Kindaichi received an invitation to a mysterious medieval castle for a night of puzzles, which soon turned into a deadly game with no way out. Let's step into the castle of wax. Hi, it's me, Hajime Kindaichi. The majestic fortress you see now is called Bald Castle. They say the entire building was transported all the way from Europe for the construction of a theme park, but the project was later put on hold due to insufficient funding. We were recently told that this castle had been purchased by an anonymous businessman known as Mr. Redrum. He invited several renowned detectives to a so-called mystery night, promising that who solved the puzzle he presented the party would win ownership of the castle. Among the invited guests was Inspector Kindaichi. He is a colleague of our friend, Inspector Isaac Kimochi, and is known for his extraordinary intelligence, earning him the nickname the present-day Sherlock in the Metropolitan Police Department. To be honest, I didn't like this guy at first. His haughty attitude always reminded me of Mark Maxwell, the smart jerk from our high school. So when he challenged me to a race to solve this mystery, I accepted without a second thought and came to the castle with Miyuki and Ray. At the gate, we were welcomed by a blonde girl named Maria Friedrich, a forensic analyst from Germany. In the reception hall, we met the other guests: Mr. Bendo, a detective novel critic; Miss Takigawa, a mystery novelist; Mr. Makime, a crime journalist; Miss Toma, a private detective; and the two guests from overseas, Mr. Anderson, a British criminal psychologist, and Mr. Klumbo, an American police inspector who claimed to be a relative to the famous homicide investigator. Everyone stayed here because they couldn't solve the puzzle to get in. Mounted on the door was a plaque that read NOW. Before I could figure it out, Ken was already one step ahead. "It's simple," he said. "Just turn it upside down." By doing so, it became the word moon. Ken turned the crescent moon decoration on the nearby statue, and the castle door slowly opened. Beyond us was a long corridor leading to a great hall, where life-size wax figures of every guest were waiting. Just then, the mysterious owner, Mr. Redrum, welcomed us through the speakers and announced that the mystery night had begun. As soon as he finished speaking, the drawbridge rose behind us, and the castle gates slammed shut. We were trapped. With no other choice, we followed Mr. Redrum's instructions and changed into the same medieval outfits worn by our wax figures.
見れば見るほどみんなよく似合ってるわね。俺だけ差つけられてるって感じ。
That night, I invited Miyuki to explore the castle. Suddenly, she let out a terrified scream. We rushed into the pool room and found Miss Toma stabbed straight through the heart. Miyuki's scream woke everyone in the castle, but after taking a closer look, we realized it was only her wax figure. Apparently, this was the puzzle Mr. Redrum had prepared for us. I examined the scene and came up with a theory. The killer must have been very strong to stab the victim through the heart in one strike. The wax figure was also holding two billiard balls numbered 9 and 3, which led us to Mr. Bando, whose given name, Kusaburo, is written with a kanji for 9 and 3. Ken laughed. "That's not a 9, he said. It's a 6. Then he looked at me, saying the only person who would mistake a 6 for a 9 is someone who didn't play billiards. Alright, I had to admit that he was really the smartest guy in the police department. And yes, I had skipped the pool game, and I was the one who set the puzzle here per the instruction Mr. Redrum left in my room. While everyone was wondering if that was all for the mystery night, the voice of Miss Redrum rang out, saying that the real game had just begun. We suddenly realized that Toma was missing. Anderson suggested we all go to Toma's room and tell her what happened, but upon hurrying to her room, we found she died with a knife driven into her back and piercing her heart, the exact same way her wax figure had been killed. Now the game had become real. Naturally, we wanted to leave the castle immediately, but the butler told us that Mr. Redrum wasn't even in the castle. Every announcement we have heard was just a recording. Things got even worse. There were no telephones in the castle, and all the cell phones we have handed over when we arrived had mysteriously disappeared. The mechanism that controlled the drawbridge had also been destroyed, leaving us completely trapped. The castle's blueprints showed no secret passages or hidden exits. It was a perfect closed-circle mystery, and the killer had to be one of us. Mr. Cuomo suddenly realized that the name Redrum was just the word murder spelled backward. It was a blatant clue. The mysterious host was the real killer. The butler said he had never met Mr. Redrum himself and knew nothing about his identity. With nowhere else to go, we returned to the East Tower for the night. The next morning, Mr. Redrum's voice echoed through the castle once again, informing us that another performance was in progress in the West Tower. We rushed over, broke open the door of the fireplace room, and saw Anderson's wax figure lying on the table, with a giant wooden stake driven through his chest. I thought it was only a prank, but it can remind me of what happened to Toma. We immediately ran to Anderson's room.
やはり、トーマめぐみの時と同じく、老人形と同じように殺されている。
I went back to the fireplace room and examined the figure more carefully. Something felt strange. The wooden stake wasn't sharp at all. It was just a smooth wooden cylinder, and the figure's body wasn't made of wax like the others. Its torso was actually made of foam. Ken quickly narrowed the suspect down to 3. The West Tower was locked from inside, meaning the culprit had to be one of the 3 guests living there: Bando, Makime, and Maria. While they all denied, I'm not convinced either. If the killer really lived in the West Tower, why did they lock the tower and make themselves the prime suspect? At night, when I couldn't sleep and got up looking for the secret passage in the castle, the broadcast started again, saying that the 3rd murder just took place in the large fireplace room. We came there and found the room unbearably hot, and Ken's figure down with his head severed. We immediately ran to Ken's room. Fortunately, he was still alive, only unconscious. Realizing there must be another victim, we found Bando was not here. We hurried back into the fireplace room. Bando's wax figure had disappeared. We rushed to his room and found both Bando and his wax figure hanging from the ceiling. Besides them was a tape recorder, playing Bando's confession. In the recording, he claimed that he was Miss Redrum and he had murdered Toma and Anderson to take revenge for crimes they had committed years ago. The butler said we should be safe now, but I thought differently. If Bando really wanted to confess, why didn't he use his own voice instead of another recording? Obviously, it was a setup. But how on earth had the killer moved around the castle without anyone seeing? As I stood there thinking, I noticed Maria and Miyuki talking beside the enormous fireplace. Yes, the fireplace! I suddenly got it!
これは、金田一君。
参った。
Toma's room in the West Tower, just like Ken's room in the East Tower, had a fireplace. The 2 fireplaces were connected by the same chimney. That meant the killer could have crawled through the chimney, traveled from one tower to the other, and murdered Anderson without unlocking the West Tower door. As for Bando's death, we were all together when we found his body. At first, it seems impossible for anyone to move his wax figure from the fireplace room to his bedroom. But there was one person who had a chance. Ken, it was you. Before we broke into your room, you were actually in the West Tower. You killed Bando, hung his body from the ceiling, then moved his wax figure into the room before we arrived. So admit it, Ken. You're the murderer, Mr. Redrum.
なんだよ。
その頭につけてるものは何です？
頭？あれ、なんか、ねば、クモの巣。
皮肉ですね。犯人と睨んだ私の無実を、君自身が証明してくれたんですから。
Okay, he was right. That means the chimney had been used in a very long time, and my theory had completely fallen apart. He then revealed another shocking fact. Toma, Anderson, and the Bando were bank robbers he had been tracking for years.
どうです？私とあなたどちらが先にこの謎を解くか勝負をしてみませんか？
レッドラムの作ったアリバイの城だ。奴のトリックを暴き、必ずアリバイを崩してやる。名探偵と言われたじっちゃんの名にかけて。
Miyuki burst in, telling us the wax figures in the fireplace room were all crying. We hurried to the fireplace room. Every wax figure had white tears running down his face, except the Bandle's. It didn't take long to figure out why. The figures' eyes were made of white eggs, and the intense heat in the room had caused them to melt. The butler explained that the fireplace room had been so hot because crows had gotten stuck in the ventilation system. Wait, Bandle's wax figure had also been sitting in this very room earlier this morning. So why hadn't its eyes melted too? Ken examined the chair where Bandle's figure had been sitting and found there was salt on the seat. That was it! I finally understood why Bandle's wax figure hadn't melted, and why the killer had gathered everyone's wax figures in the fireplace room. And if my guess was correct, there should be one last piece of evidence inside the fireplace itself. I searched through the ashes, found it, and the Miyuki immediately recognized its owner. Now everything made sense. I now know who Mr. Redrum really is.
Sagashimono かい？何を驚いてるんだ？俺はあんたと同じトリックを使っただけだぜ。無駄だ！部屋の外には全員集まってるんだ。もう逃げられないよ。ミスター・レッドラム！
Now, let me review how every murder had been committed. After killing Anderson, you never left the wax tower. Instead, you disguised yourself as Anderson's wax figure. When we all rushed to Anderson's room, you simply stood up, burned the costume in the fireplace, and quietly joined the rest of us. Therefore, no one questioned where you came from. And the Bandle's murder was even more clever. You killed him the night before and moved his figure into his room. Then you drugged Ken, came back to the fireplace room, and cut off the head of Ken's figure. After that, you disguised yourself as Bandle's figure and sat perfectly still on the chair. It was a brilliant trick. The moment we saw Ken's helpless figure, everyone panicked and rushed to his room. Nobody had time to check whether Bandle's figure was real or not. And when Bandle's body was discovered, Ken would naturally become the prime suspect. It was a perfect setup. But even the perfect disguise had one weakness. The fireplace room was extremely hot this morning. You couldn't stop yourself from sweating. And Ken found the salt stains on the chair. It could certainly prove that you were guilty if we took it to a DNA test. Not to mention that we also found your ring left in the fireplace when you burned Anderson's costumes. So what do you say, Mr. Redrum? I mean, Miss Takigawa. Knowing there was no way out, Miss Takigawa finally confessed. 20 years ago, 5 young people have robbed the bank and stolen $2 million. But the mastermind, Mr. Sayama, never wanted the money. He had planned the robbery only to prove that the perfect crime could exist. Afterward, he wanted to return every dollar, while his 3 friends refused. They murdered both Sayama and his girlfriend, but the latter miraculously survived, changed her identity, and became Mr. Takigawa. Everything that happened in this castle had been her revenge, and now she no longer wanted to live. She put out a gun, shot the lights, and set the entire castle on fire. I shouted at her to stop. I told her there was nothing intelligent, heroic, or romantic about what she, Sayama, or the other robbers had done. Their choices had only brought hatred, tragedy, and death. For a brief moment, Miss Takigawa seemed removed, but it was already too late. The flames quickly spread throughout the castle. Just when all hope seemed lost, Maria led us to the fireplace beneath the painting that looked just like her, saying it was the only place in the castle safe from the fire. In the end, the castle burned to the ground. Isaac and the rescue team arrived just in time to save us. He told us that the police had found Miss Takigawa's body inside the fireplace room. They also discovered another skeleton, believed to be Mr. Sayama's. At last, the two lovers had finally been reunited. But the strangest mystery remained. Ken, who now became my friend, or should I say Farami, told me that Maria had disappeared. No one could find any record that she had ever existed. It was as if she had vanished from the history itself. Maybe she really was the fairy from that painting, a mysterious girl who crossed the time itself to witness the joys and the sorrows of humanity. And in the end, she saved us all. This is another enjoyable early Kindaichi case, though I wouldn't rank it among my personal favorites. The culprit's identity, the murder methods, and even the motive are all decent, but none of them really stand out compared to those strong cases in the series. The biggest highlight of this case is the debut of one of the anime's most important recurring characters, Inspector Akachi. His name is a tribute to Kogoro Akachi, the legendary fictional detective created by Japan's master of mystery, Edogawa Rampo. Like his namesake, Inspector Akachi possesses remarkable detective skills. In fact, he is one of the very few characters who can rival Hajime's intelligence. Throughout the series, Akachi also solved many difficult cases on his own. Some of them are among my favorites, and I will definitely cover them in future videos. Besides the first appearance of Akachi, the atmosphere this case creates is also brilliant. The medieval castle, its cold stone walls, the echoing corridors, dim candlelights, and eerie wax figures all add the gothic hue to this well-crafted crime, not to mention the mysterious appearance of the enigmatic girl Maria. So if you happen to be a fan of gothic fiction like me, this case is still worth watching. Once again, please stick to this channel for more mysteries, folklore, and detective fiction. Thanks for watching, and next Kindaichi case is coming soon.